Do you see the connection between how we destroy the world, ourselves, relationships, health, life, etc., all in the same way? Well, in this video, I'm going to be going in depth as much as I possibly can in explaining how misunderstanding destruction equals a perpetuated cycle of our everyday demises, and how if we're capable of aligning with the right structure, we can create a sustainable and enjoyable evolution instead of this tangled yarn ball mess of a reality where we get a loop of unwanted outcomes. The purpose of this video is to emphasize the extraordinary powers that we have as individuals and how we are rightfully and biologically tailored to living a good experience on this planet. And if we aren't in that, obviously we're going to see results that make us feel unlively and negative. So if we're going to start anywhere, we're going to start with the creation of the world. This is prima materia, eternity, truth, God, life. It is as it is. Existence exists for entirety, this to experience itself. So, in order for the existence of existence, entirety needed to do this. It created relationships, dynamics, polarities. Some examples: sun, moon, good, bad, form, force. This entirety wants to cover as much surface area that it possibly can in order to experience itself entirely. So it seeks complexity, flavor, diversity. So it splits itself again. I hope you can kind of see the correlation to genes here and DNA, and how the farther we go down this chart of information coded, the more precise the form becomes in its expression. Just as we are diverse creatures formed in particular combinations, everything that we see in reality is the same, as within, so without. Ultimately, we are everything. However, we are a fixed expression in more ways than not in who we currently are. And both of these elements of being volatile and fixed need to be present in order for the other to be fully realized. And this applies to the two polarities that we revealed in the beginning. As above, so below. And before we continue, I just want to quickly note, in order to gain as much as you possibly can from this video, it would be in best interest to meditate, focus on releasing attachments, identities, labels, assumptions, expectations, preconceived knowings, fantasies. Just allow the information to come to you as it is, and then go through the process of questioning it using your own volition. That practice in general is one of my favorites for grounding me back into the most manipulatable reality. The system that we currently deal with is destructive capitalism, featuring distorted patriarchy. So obviously the yellow is a very rough outline of what our system looks like currently governing the United States, and the orange is the average person that is going about the rat race. The general understanding is that there is something wrong, and that reaction is the only sane reaction to a system that looks like the yellow. It is merely an input-output system. Malaligned expression arises when energy attempts to survive under conditions that suppress, invert, or reward this behavior. This is direction without rhyme or reason. This is the polarities that we established in the beginning out of balance. Tension generates complexity. So going back to my previous conclusion of direction without rhyme or reason, the direction is the masculine force and the rhyme or reason is the feminine force. And these two are sorely misconsidered, misunderstood, malaligned. Destruction starts within homes and then scales to governments. As within, so without. Behavior is driven by foremost mind, body, soul alignment, then environment, and restriction. So the average Joe who's in this situation is going to be asking who's to blame. Instead of going through all of those weeds, we need to discuss most vitally how we are a part of this structure and how our individual power plays the most vital role that is overlooked way too often and is the root of reality being guided in this direction. So let's go into the general attributes of masculine and feminine energy, the two things that create this push and pull relationship, this cause and effect relationship. I know I kind of hinted at it earlier, but feminine and masculine are the two polarities here that are the basis, and how they are expressing themselves is going to determine how everything else expresses themselves. And as you can see on this chart, masculine and feminine creations are very close to volatile. They are very subjective. There's no real way to assign these two energies into a container. As above, so below. You are essentially at your root, at your core entirety. So do not disregard the other energy. Both are applicable to you regardless of the assigned container. This is aligned attributes of masculine and feminine. Let's start with masculine. It's kind of easy to put together the puzzle and come to the conclusion that identity is reinforced through structure. We have order, we have stability, we have constructors, systems, logical, leader, boundary, directional. All those words can be put in the umbrella category of function, being reinforced by function. Because they are external builders like this, they have externalized problem solving as one of their traits. So you can see this through their emotional way of connecting, where they're going to be the ones who want to solve the problem as it is, as they think it is, plainly. There's a lot of up and out energy here. Stability is found through system and structure. You will find the most system and structure when logic is applied to that equation. So if logic is lacking, you're going to get something that is hard to follow, chaotic, broken, brutish, primitive. The cognitive processing of masculine energy is linear, prioritizing, decisive. For all of these traits, it is kind of vital for this energy to have affinity, because it needs to act, it needs to move its force, its energy, in order to actually express itself, in order to recognize that it's alive. So in that sense, this energy feels through action. And because this energy is a constructive energy, it manages rules and laws, which is boundaries, a container. These are all very practical, grounded words that physically manifest reality plainly. That is why they are the external manifestors of reality. The majority of things that you see in reality have been built by men, and you need all of these traits in order to be the perfect protector. The feminine energy has relational awareness. The identity is reinforced through resonance. How well does the internal resonate with the external, and how well does the external resonate with the internal? How well can they imbue reality with magic that allows for resonance to occur? Just through that sentence alone, you can tell it's internal work. So they have internalized processing. There's a lot of intuitive, imaginative, creative energy that needs to gestate in order to manifest these emotions. Therefore, they are emotional manifestors. The majority of why life is so bright and why things have meaning is because of this energy. And because this creative energy can very easily become chaotic, stability is found through adaptation. Because this energy is intuitive, empathetic, receptive, and creative, the feeling happens through expressing. All of this energy can be expressed through words, through emotions, through art, through creation, whatever it may be. This energy alchemizes their emotions to create, in relationship to the masculine utilizing their actions to express. So this energy in nature is very good at attuning, humanizing, and softening systems and structures, because they understand the underlying fluidity that needs to take place in order for life to be as beautiful and as optimized as it can be. So they are the refiners, they're the guiders, they nurture things into highest humanity. Things can hold a specific magnetic, emotional understanding and attachment and identity, regardless of whether it's an object or a living thing. When this energy is in alignment with its true purpose, its true expression, it's capable of receiving cues from intuition, which is the ultimate alignment that is in favor of everything that is creation. This energy marinates in what it wants to do, what it wants to think, what it wants to say, what it wants to create a lot more readily than the masculine energy. So now, if we take a look at the malaligned present state, we can see how this is essentially the opposite of what we just went over, due to the output system that we are currently living in, feeding us alignments that resonate with this expression. Because remember, this system does not reward those aligned attributes we just went over, they align this egoic expression. We see ego replacing the contribution, the manifestation work that could ultimately make life better if we utilized the energies in the correct way. Performance replaces presence. We see people performing the aligned attributes, but it certainly isn't the authentic expression. This is all a rational response, and that is assuming, which is the majority, assuming that you heavily attach, identify, label, assume, and expect this as being absolute for you, which is why I put that disclaimer in the beginning. This is the literal equation to continuing on our current path, which is not only created by the collective unconscious, but also very vitally yourself. If we take the collective unconscious out of the equation here, your own life is being influenced by this because you haven't claimed your power in altering that trajectory. So what is even more powerful than your unclaimed power? Well, the major influence of the collective unconscious and what is believed to be reality. So you need to be able to develop enough agency, enough sovereignty, enough will to take hold of your own individual life. And that creates one additional step into altering the collective unconscious. And depending on how much you want to scale that power and work with that power and alchemize it, you can do some serious damage, right? In a good way. So I digress. Just to quickly graze over this, it won't be quick, but we can try to be. For the masculine energy, we have a detachment from contribution, which is major in creating the identity, right? So there's an identity void there because there's no functional way of expressing that they are doing something to mirror their own essence back to them. The leader role turns more into a controller. Power is seen through domination. There's a suppressed vitality situation happening here because of the fact that there is, no alignment. Emotional flooding without action leads to shutdown. Cold, rigid boundaries are formed because the female refinement isn't present and isn't understood by the masculine. So also unstable, brutal construct. They can be addicted to motion because they're trying to fill that identity void that's missing, but it just doesn't work because they aren't doing it in the proper way. There is no rhyme or reason. And that detachment of what they should be to what they're trying to chase leads to someone being unmoored from consequence. Very easily can you detach from the situation to do because your brain chemistry has been altered for this particular system that you're playing in from when you were a child or from just being in present realities, mechanical mayhem without actually having any ability to say, that's it, this is my life. And that's really hard. That's not how we're supposed to live. There has to be something that this energy works towards. It is force, it is direction. So it will create a direction, disregarding if it's good or bad, because it needs it. It's its entire purpose. The feminine malalignment is a detachment from relational value. And with reality looking like this, there is a major identity void. Maybe reality isn't mirroring itself in a way where this feminine energy can see its true beauty or see its true potential and work towards it. Maybe people aren't understanding this energy as much as they expect. Maybe they don't know how to use that relationship with the external and the internal. Because we live in a distorted patriarchy that's propelled by a destructive capitalistic structure, there is a major weakness narrative amongst this energy. I mean, there's that, and then there's also the unvalued accomplishments, the unlearned mysteries of feminine that are just not there because for all of history, we've essentially been in a patriarchal structure. So this feminine energy feels misrepresented, misunderstood. Because it doesn't have a lot of surface area covered, it feels like it's lacking. So with that being said, there is a withdrawal of compassion, which is a safety structure requirement. So there's no structure for the feminine energy. And because stability is found through adaptation, there is a lack of safety. So because of all of this unresolved and what can be seen for this energy and is for this energy unacknowledged, invalidated stance, it uses contempt as defense. Emotional leverage is the manipulation tool for this energy. It's very easy for this energy to create a narrative in which it isn't responsible. And what's more, there's no anchor in the chaos, which is a sovereignty requirement. So this energy has very dramatic or porous boundaries because it feels through expression. And just as destruction is a byproduct of the masculine energy trying to find itself, the emotional stance of the feminine energy is the root of its manifestations. And in this case, it's fear. So this is a masterful perpetuation of our current present reality. So throughout everything here, it's really good to ask yourself, how are you participating in this creation? This is the state of alignment scale I made for how these two energies feel at the end of the day. It's not easy for either of them. And a lot of the times it's hard for us to see that for the other party, because there is a strong focus on ourselves for obvious reasons. So how can we alter this negative perpetuation of creation? How can we change the trajectory of where we are in the external world? Well, as within, so without. So we want to start with ourselves. So what needs to happen is the inner work needs to be really delved into to recognize where your shadow is protruding, where your traumas are taking the lead, and how your ego is really the one in the driver's seat. It takes work, but ultimately it is going to be for the better. I mean, if it's not as clear as day now, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, we're reaching a break point in what reality can handle right now. And there is going to be a major pivoting point of what is accepted, what is real, and what is absolute, what has been long unacknowledged and long avoided. And it's either you're on the train or you're not until you are. So to detangle these two energies and to remind you, these labels are important to an extent because we are physically fixed creatures that are expressed in physical ways. I mean, we have fixed physical genitalia that is different from the other energy. That does not make us separated from entirety. You cannot be truly feminine without the masculine energy implemented, and you cannot be truly masculine without the feminine energy implemented. It always starts with how you decide to contribute to the grand scheme of things via your perception. You can recognize how this container is flawed and the chaos energy is blooming more than the creative energy of the feminine energy. We are fixed creatures. We have to focus on what's fixed in front of us, right? Which is literally our external reality. However, we are also very volatile. What is volatile? Emotions. What is volatile? Our perception. Our thoughts, feelings, ideas equally need to be taken into consideration. That is the feminine energy. Just as the feminine energy is misrepresented and not considered in the external fixed world, it is not considered in the emotional, spiritual realm, which is the manifester, the abundance, the alignment, the understanding, the depth, the meaning, the purpose, the passion. Our life force has to be directed somehow. So it's going to, if nothing, work with the external world because it's the most comprehensible. Imbalance without aligned recalibration manifests a negativity loop because it was attended with attention, emotionally charged with negativity, embodied, internally and externally validated, and there was a belief and an expectation which our fixed pattern recognizing bodies will enforce as absolute. That is a major biological vulnerability of being human. And it's the recipe for manifestation. We have to start within because that's where it started. So can you see the compounding effect here? Everything started with a thought. Nature chaotically organized reality into this. No need to get into the complications of it all. However, if we think of another thought and we allow nature to chaotically organize it in a different variation, what do you think is possible?